are going to graduate in electrical engineering. So again, in electrical engineering, your power electronics is one of the core subject, if you know. So I'll try to align this device electronics subject for with the power electronics. Like most likely see devices. Just today we'll also see these devices can have different type of application, from optoelectronics to RF electronics to power electronics. So out of that, I'll try to align this device electronics, this E311, with the power electronics, so that it can help you in coming years. So now, see, I believe like you are very good at economics, and perhaps at least you are interested in economics. So first, we should also understand why we should learn this device electronics. Of course, this is a part of your curriculum as a core subject. But apart from that, what we are heading towards in future in this device or semiconductor field. So here, let me take this point. So here, if you look at this, is just in terms of market. So it is a purely economic thing. So here you can see this global sale in $1 billion. Here you can see this global sales in terms of trillion. So the interesting point here, these two blue color lines. So if you see, if you know that in the last century also we have seen a lot of industrial revolution. So in terms of automobile, in textile, so you know. So now if you see in this particular chart, so see this is the, these dotted lines represent the growth of automobile industry in terms of sale. So it is now in 2020 it is more than $1 trillion by 2020. Now this is this dot line represent the industrial growth in steel industry, and this is the overall gross world product, you know, GDP. So similarly, this is another index which is used to show this total product irrespective of any particular industry. So now if we look at this blue color, this line, see here comes the electronics, and which already crossed this steel industry as well as automobile industry. So in terms of its total revenue or global sale, and again you know that so all the electronics part is not made of semiconductor. So that is why there are two trains. So one is the electronic items, all the electronic things that you see around, and then these electronics systems are made of this semiconductor. So similarly, again the train, in the both cases the trains are same, but this is not the thing. So like actually you can say like the semiconductor is a subset of your electronic industry. So again, if you see this semiconductor industry, it already crossed the steel industry global sale in around 2020. So you can see now in the coming slide, you will also understand how it is going to play a major role in the coming years. So since you are now in your UG level, so you should understand like why this is so important. Okay. So now, if you come to the this manufacturing part of this semiconductor or all these devices, so to manufacture this semiconductor devices in the microelectronics industry, we have this semiconductor wafer fabrication plant, which is typically acronymed as fab. These are called fab lab. So where we are actually building these devices as well as integrated circuits, so such as diodes and transistors. Now, now onwards, I expect you will understand what is a fab. So in fab, we are building these devices. Again, remember, just after this, we have in our country at present we have only one fab, that is government fab in Chandigarh, that is called Semiconductor Laboratory. So typically they are fabricating devices for space as well as different applications. So unfortunately At present, we do not have any commercial fab in the country, but the hope, like this I should mention, but the hope is just this year, in January, Government of India opened a call for the industries, like different global industries, to show the expression of interest. So this is called EOI. So again, I know that almost more than 20 global players, they are interested in India to set up their fab industry. So like fab are like who are the fab? What are the example? Like Samsung, they have their own fab industry. TSMC, that means Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation. So they are one of the largest fab player, and of course they are this Intel, they are also there. So these are the industry, but they do not have any plant in India. So mostly in India, if you ask me now, sir, there are a lot of like these mobile companies, they are having their own factory. But here we are mostly having this assembly plant, not the fab. So in fab, you will start from the material, and then you will build the device, then so on. So now, if you look at the semiconductor manufacturer, so another point, just why I am going into all this economy and then industrial thing. See, we may not know, like maybe one of you or few of you may get interested and may think differently, and you can take up all these challenges in future, and maybe see, like we don't know, like you should take interest so in this, because it is going to play a major role. So now if you look at the semiconductor manufacturer, typically, so there are two type of manufacturer. One is they are called IDM, or integrated device manufacturer, and another type of industries are called foundries. Now what are the differences between them? So this integrated device manufacturers, or IDMs, they design their circuit as well as they fabricate their this overall circuit. So these are all in-house setup. Now again, this fab means a huge factory, like a huge plant. It requires lot of manpower, lot of space, lot of water, because this is another requirement, and of course this lot of materials, like a lot of accessory industries are required also. So now, in case of foundry, they do not have any design this section. So they typically different companies, design companies, they are sending their design to the foundries, and they will fabricate and give this fabricated device to the design company or any other companies. So this is the difference between these two type of company or semiconductor manufacturer. One is integrated device manufacturer, they have everything on their own, and foundries typically they will fabricate, they will not see the design part and everything. So now this is another important this chart where again this is something economical thing. So you can see the growth of semiconductor industry. And important thing here to note, see, instead of the pandemic last year, and still it is going on, see, still in this industry there is significant growth. Okay, so see now it is almost $460 billion. So 460 billion USD total market, your semiconductor market. Now, after mentioning this global outlook, where are we standing in India? So in India, as I just mentioned, so we do not have this fab industry. Mostly here we have a huge industry that is based on design. So there are a lot of things, like design means what? Like let's say you will design an amplifier, you will design an power amplifier, you will design some RF amplifier. Not only that, in case of digital application, you will design the circuit, then you need to send those circuit to your foundry. Then they will fabricate, and you'll get the your final tangible product. So in India, we have this design market mainly, and which is also seeing a huge growth for the last few years. Again, say Now you can see here, so almost 52 US like billion USD in the current market. This is design market. We do not have any fab here, but you can see why India is, like as I mentioned, like government of India, everyone. Again, just 2 days back, I was reading one article like this Tata and other big Indian industry. They are also interested in this electronics and in this fab industry mainly. So you can see now this is almost $24 billion, the total market, and within 5 years it is going to see 5 times, almost 4 times growth. So $100 billion market. So that is why the interest is. So now again, this is something another important thing I should note. To set up a fab, it will take at least $3 to $6 billion, depending on technology load and wafer capacity. Technology node means again, today we'll see, like there is some law, that is not law, that is some prediction, that is called Moore's law. Moore's law says after every 18 months, in a particular area, the number of chips or the number of transistors will be double. So just today, let's say in a, just suppose in 1 centimeter square area, we are having 1 billion transistor. So after 18 months, in the same 1 centimeter square area should be able to accommodate this 2 billion transistor. So this is the Moore's law. Moore's, again, he was the co-founder of Intel, and he predicted this law in the year, if I remember correctly, 1965 or 75. I forgot exactly. So, but the fortune, like the thing is, till now, till today, we or the industry could follow that rule, this Moore's law. Now there are of course a lot of challenges. So it depends on this technology node. This you will read something called 3 nanometer technology, 7 nanometer technology. Again, this 3 nanometer, 7 nanometer, typically sometime we have some misconception, like it is the distance between source and the gate in a typical transistor. But remember, this 7 nanometer node does not mean it is the like the distance between source and drain is 7 nanometer. So remember, so it depends on a lot of other factors. So if possible, I will explain that also, like like what are the features of 7 nanometer technology, what are the features of 3 nanometer technology, and so on. And remember, this nanometer is very, very small thing. Okay. So now this is one thing. So the cost will depend on the technology node. Obviously, the lower will be the technology, the cost will be more. And the next important thing is the wafer capacity. Wafer capacity typically means it is, okay, I don't know whether you have seen wafer or not. I think I have one slide today. So this is it looks like almost this CD. You know this. You have now CD mostly you are not using, but it looks like a CD. So this 6-inch, 12-inch wafer or 18-inch diameter it is coming, and on this this is typically made of silicon, and on top of it we are actually building our all devices. So this is called wafer. So, and now how many wafers a typical fab will produce per month or per day, depending on that, this overall cost will be that. So these are the two factors which will decide your actual fab setup cost. So now once again, so if you, in this particular slide you can see like in all aspect of our present life, we are utilizing electronics or utilizing this semiconductor in some way. So this is the outlook for the different years, like 2019, 2020, and 2021. And this values represent how important this semiconductor is for this particular industry. So if you see Internet of Things, I think you know what is Internet of Things and why this is so important in current in modern day. So now if you see, considering the in this particular Internet of Thing industry, what is the like role of your semiconductor? So see here, 1 to 5, 1 not at all important and 5 very important. So now just if you look at, you cannot eat semiconductor. Apart from that, you are having semiconductor everywhere around you. See, you can wear also, like there are a lot of wearable devices nowadays, like your smartwatch and all other things that those are coming. So so there are a lot of application. So see again here, wireless application, automobile application, then artificial intelligence, consumer electronics, data center, cloud computing, personal computer, augmented reality, then robotics, medical devices, security, industrial equipment, and power technology. So everywhere you are having, like in all the industry, all the emerging industry, you need to use this semiconductor. So now let us go back to some basic. So if you look at any typical electronic item, let's say, I think most of you are now sitting in front of your laptop or your mobile. So all the typical electronic equipment is made of 4 different categories, I would say. So what are they? So these are the 4 different subsection. I would once again just restate this. So see, overall, this laptop or this mobile is an electronic system. Now, if you just open your laptop or your mobile, you'll see a lot of circuit, no doubt about that. Now, all this circuit, if you further look into this, you will see a lot of devices. Devices may be either passive devices or active devices. What are the passive devices? We know that your capacitor, inductor, and this resistor. And active devices like this here, your transistor or mainly. So again, further, obviously, all these devices, circuit, and system eventually made of some material. And this material could be either, you know, that in terms of more conductivity, either your conductor, insulator, or of course the semiconductor. So these are the broad 4 categories. Like if you like in industry, so these are called again, there is something called vertical and horizontal. So this is the vertical, typical vertical. So like for all application, let's say if you want to build a medical system, like some ECG setup. So in ECG setup, you have the system, then there are some circuit related to that, then you have devices, then all this thing made of some material. Now, let's say for some other application, like let's say electric vehicle, which is which is having huge market, particularly in India, in our country. So again, if you look into this electric vehicle, so this there are a lot of power electronic equipment, and if you just dig into further and further inside an electric vehicle, you'll see all these 4 sections. So you should understand in this way. So we'll try to see in our coming lectures also. So now okay, so here another basic thing. See, in electronics, this fab industry, where actually the devices are being built. So typically there are 2 types. What are they? One is the typical made of silicon. So silicon, you know, group 4 material, and silicon from the invention of your transistor in 1947. Then onwards, I think first, anyway, this first transistor was made of germanium, then silicon came. So the silicon has, apart from the low cost, not the lowest cost, I think, because of its abundant availability on earth. So the silicon is most matured industry. So most of the electronic devices we are seeing is typically made of silicon as semiconductor. So now in case of silicon, the typical process, what process we will follow to develop a particular device, this is the step. So where let's say some basic device, PN junction. So this is one of the fundamental blocks of your any electronic system. So if you want to fabricate any PN junction out of a silicon material, so these are the steps we are typically following. First, we will take silicon. On top of this, we will deposit silicon dioxide. Then we will etch out some portion of silicon dioxide. Then we will introduce some atoms. These are called dopant atoms. And then we'll make this change the conductivity, like we'll change this silicon, let's say from N to P or P to N. So typically here we are taking P-type silicon, and on top of this we are incorporating some arsenic or your group 5 material. So then it will become N-type. So eventually we'll end up in getting this kind of configuration. So this dashed portion, this is the N-type behavior, like here we are having silicon as a N-type conductivity, and this is the P-type silicon we already took initially. So then we are having here PN junction formed. So this is the typical way how the silicon devices are made of. So this is very, I would say, brief. So it is not so easy. So there are a lot of other details. So we'll see, of course, in this particular course, what are the in detail steps we need to follow to develop these devices in case of silicon. So this is made of, this is for silicon application. Now there are other type of electronic devices which are, you can say, made out of made of non-silicon semiconductor. So as I think in the last class also I mentioned that for all this emerging application in terms of power, in terms of current, voltage, frequency. So these are typical electronic parameter, this frequency, current, voltage. So now this silicon cannot meet all your requirement. So let's say now for your electric vehicle application, you need some device which can sustain more than 650 voltage. So 650 voltage sustaining for a typical silicon device, of course it can sustain, but in different configuration. So but typically for other few specification, it will not be able to meet those requirements. So then you need to take other materials. So those materials are called typically compound semiconductor, and most recently other few two-dimensional semiconductors, and they are all coming, but they are all at research level. But this compound semiconductor, it is close to I think mostly mature, at least arsenide based some compound semiconductor, and more recently this nitride based semiconductor. So because silicon cannot meet the emerging requirement, so that is why we need to move to other semiconductor. So now how to fabricate the devices in case of other non-silicon semiconductor? The steps are of course not the same which we followed in case of silicon electronics. So what are the steps? So this is the typical image of any wafer that I just mentioned initially today. So this is a wafer. So this diameter, you can see it almost looks like a CD. Again, it also has the color similar to CD, like your gray color, dark gray. So again, since this is made of silicon, it has this dark gray color. But if it is made of from different material, the color may change. But fundamentally, so this is like how big it will be. Depending on that, your yield will depend. What is the yield? So these are some I would say like important terms related to this semiconductor manufacturing. So yield mean, so see, whenever in industry there will be this fabrication or processing of devices. It is not that all 100 devices will like, let's say we are fabricating 100 transistors. So it is not that all 100 transistors will work fine, or it will give us a completely desired output. So there may be some wastage. Not only that, in terms of transistor, there may be wastage of material, because say you can see here, this is circular. So why it is circular? Also, it has the reason why it is not rectangular. because there are different steps which people are following to build this wafer. So typically that is called bulk growth. You can just for your own interest, you can just remember these names, or you will find all these details in the book, of course. So this is called bulk growth, using which we are developing these wafers. And so typical growth methodologies are like Joukowsky growth, if you know, and then few others processes are there. So now the more modern is our fab lab. The size or the wafer size handling capacity of the fab lab will be higher. So yeah, if I know correctly, in SCL, I think it has a wafer like that. Wafers, see, the previously I discussed the how many wafers a typical fab can process, and now I am discussing how big wafer a typical industry can process. Because the higher will be the size of the wafer, at one run will get lot of devices, of course. So let's say this particular wafer has 6-inch diameter, and another industry we are having where it can handle 12-inch diameter wafer. So of course at one go we can fabricate larger number of devices in case of 12-inch this wafer handling capacity fab lab. So that is the thing. So this is called yield. Now in case of compound semiconductor, we are starting with this kind of wafer. Now on this is also called AP ready silicon wafer. So this is I am showing in case of gallium nitride like compound semiconductor devices. So where we are, so this gallium nitride, why I am again focusing on gallium nitride devices as compound semiconductor, because as I mentioned that this gallium nitride is most promising material considering this power electronic application. Of course, I don't know if you know, in 2014 the Nobel Prize was awarded for the invention of blue LED, which is also made of this gallium nitride material. So the gallium nitride, it is not that it has only application in power electronics, it has application in RF electronics. So gallium nitride is also going to play a crucial role for your upcoming 5G network, 5G or 6G after that. So then it also has RF application. So this is amazing, some amazing material after silicon. So this, in case of gallium nitride, we are starting with this wafer. Then we are utilizing this huge system. These are typically called MBE or MOCVD. No need to remember this name. So this is after depositing this material, this gallium nitride material on silicon, it will look like something like this. So this is grown AP ready wafer. Then we need to process our this wafer. Processing means we will simply fabricate the source, drain, and gate terminal, because you know that this is all semiconductor. Now to connect this semiconductor to the outside world, we need some metallization like your source, drain, and gate contact. So that step is typically called processing. So this is called growing. This instrument this is called growing or growth instrument or epitaxial growth instrument. So this is called processing instrument. This is anyway this particular image. The name of this is a mask aligner. So this is also called photolithography tool. So if you are having interest further, like anyway, this is very basic subject, so I'll not go into detail. But if you have any interest, for some of you, please let me know. I can discuss. So then after processing these wafers, so you can see it had this kind of morphology or image. So after processing, it will look like something like this. So where we have so many transistors. So where is the transistor? So you can see this. Okay, I should have enlarged figure. So here, this is a typical transistor. Again, okay. So you can see this. There are three needle light dark this portion. So these are actually this is called probing. So these are this is actually connected to connected to your gate. This is the gate terminal. This is the source terminal, and this is the drain terminal. Remember, this is the actual figure under microscope. So here we are actually trying to get the output characteristics of transistor, that you know that the characteristics between your drain current versus drain to source voltage. So this is the configuration, or this is the actual image when we are trying to measure or get the output characteristics of this gallium nitride transistor. So after processing these wafers, we again need to cut all this transistor. So here, this is one particular transistor, this is another transistor, this is another transistor. So we are here actually seeing 1, 2, 3, 4 transistor. Okay, so now these are 4 transistor. Of course, we will not use 4 transistor together for a typical application. So then we need to cut all these transistors in a different part. So that is called your packaging, like cutting, and there are of course lot of other process involved. And finally, when you will go to market and ask or buy any gallium nitride transistor, it will look like something like this. So inside this, we are having this transistor, and which is coming all the way from this epitaxial wafer. And this metal, this golden color you are seeing, again, as I mentioned, this gallium nitride is we are using for power application, and for power application we are giving very high voltage and applying essentially we are applying for high power. So it will generate a lot of heat, and that heat should be emitted or dissipated very efficiently. Otherwise, you may burn your device also at that high power level. So that is why we are utilizing this. Typically this is made of metal, so it will help to keep your device cool. So this is the discrete device. Finally, we are getting. Remember, this is not integrated circuit. Integrated circuit is different. Okay, so this is the discrete device. You will get only one particular transistor. I think some of you, anyway, maybe 4th year, you have already used in the lab that 3 so BJT, MOSFET, which are having 3 legs. So this is like that. So this is a 3 discrete device. This is not integrated circuit. So now looking into more fundamentals. So overall, you know that in terms of semiconductor, like in terms of material conductivity, we are having these 3 type of material: this conductor, insulator, and semiconductor. And now if you just consider now this semiconductor, so in semiconductor device, typically there are a lot of junctions. So if you take any particular semiconductor, like any particular semiconductor device, let's say your diode or MOSFET or BJT, so you will see a lot of junction. So those junctions actually play a crucial role, as you know. So what are the typical junctions? So these are again very broad categories. So first junction, you will see that metal semiconductor. Of course, you need to connect one metal on your semiconductor. Otherwise, how will you connect your semiconductor with the outside world? So this is a one type of junction. This is called metal semiconductor junction. And in coming this module, we'll see this metal semiconductor junction can be ohmic as well as Schottky, or we can say this metal semiconductor junction, the current voltage. See, overall, end of the day, we are interested to the terminal characteristics. What is this terminal characteristics? That means simply the current voltage relationship. See, you can also see in this figure. So there is one terminal, another terminal. So typically 2 terminals are there in this figure. So just we'll apply some voltage, and what is the current we are getting. So now why we are getting that behavior and how to model those characteristics, that is the objective of this particular E3111 course. So we will get some characteristics. If we apply 1 volt, 2 volt, 3 volt, up to 10 volt, the current will change across this 2 terminal. So now why this is the change? and how we can mathematically model this behavior or this current voltage relationship. That will be the focus of this particular course. Now again, coming back to this particular junction in metal semiconductor junction, so this junction can be rectifying or non-rectifying. Non-rectifying means it can like let's say you have I cannot write today. Okay, so let's say you have typical this x-axis as voltage and y-axis as a current. Now from negative voltage to positive voltage, you keep on applying this bias across this junction, and then in case of ohmic this behavior of this particular junction, so the third term in third quadrant means when you are applying negative bias across the device, as well as the first quadrant when you are applying positive bias across. Obviously positive negative is relative, so let's say here you are applying positive, so the current you will get, and when you will apply negative in this terminal, the current you will get will be similar. That means there will be a straight line passing through the origin. So in the first quadrant and third quadrant, it will give the current behavior will remain same. That behavior is called non-rectifying behavior, as well as that behavior is called ohmic behavior. Now this same metal semiconductor junction, due to some of course technical reason, or so it can give us rectifying behavior. What is this rectifying behavior? It is similar to your PN junction behavior. That means in the first quadrant, when we'll apply positive here, the current will keep on increasing. However, when we'll apply negative bias here, it will not allow current to flow through this device, or very small amount of current will flow. So that means if you look at the characteristics, it will give you simply diode-like characteristics. So that once again, your current flow, this direction will be unidirectional. So this is due. This will happen when you are having non-rectifying, rectifying behavior or Schottky contact out of this metal semiconductor junction. So why these are why sometimes this metal semiconductor behaving or giving us rectifying behavior, and why this metal semiconductor sometimes giving us non-rectifying behavior, that we'll try to understand, and also we'll try to model these characteristics. So typical current voltage characteristics. So why we need to model all these these characteristics, then we will actually understand what is happening inside this device, how the carriers, how the electrons or the holes are crossing all this junction, and what is actually happening. So that we'll understand if we can model all these characteristics. So this is a metal semiconductor junction. We can also have, as you know, that PN PN junction diode simply. So this is a P type. So here the semiconductor, and this semiconductor is varying in terms of doping only, dopant atoms. Here you are having boron as dopant atom. Here you may have dopant atom as let's say arsenic or phosphorus or any group 5 material. So this is, but remember, these two semiconductor they are same. Either they are made of silicon, either they are made of any compound particular semiconductor, but the only difference is in terms of doping. Okay, so doping, I think you know that doping means typically so I'll calculate all these things. So typically in a silicon semiconductor, how many atoms are there in what is the atomic density? Do you know this? How many silicon atoms are there, let's say in per centimeter cube? So there are almost 10 to the power 22 silicon atoms are there in silicon crystal, in silicon semiconductor. Now when we dope any silicon semiconductor, we are actually replacing 10 to the power 17 or 10 to the power 18 or 10 to the power 16 per centimeter cube atoms. Remember that this total number of silicon atoms 10 to the power 22, but we are only replacing 10 to the power 17 or 16. So this is called doping. Okay. Again, if time permits, I'll see there is something called alloying or something like that in compound semiconductor. Let's say I mentioned this gallium nitride. So gallium atoms are there as well as nitrogen atoms are there. But here the gallium as well as nitrogen atoms, they are sharing whole crystal equally. So this is not doping. So it is not that nitrogen is doped with gallium. It is not, because here both gallium and nitrogen, they are sharing overall crystal similarly. But in case of doping, you can now understand, like out of only 10 to the power 22 silicon atoms per centimeter cube, we are replacing 10 to the power 17, 16 or 18. Okay, so it depends. So like on application, what will be the doping level. So here we have, in case of PN junction, we are only having difference in doping. Now there could be another type of this junction, which is coming mainly in case of compound semiconductor, not in case of silicon semiconductor. So this is called semiconductor-semiconductor junction. What is this semiconductor-semiconductor junction? See, here the semiconductor itself is different than this semiconductor. That means, let's say here we can have silicon, and here we can have let's say gallium nitride or silicon germanium. So silicon germanium is another compound semiconductor. So when we are having this different semiconductor, of course this different semiconductor will show different characteristics. Again, fundamental characteristics of any semiconductor is band gap, nothing. So if you understand this band gap, or if you start from this band gap, you can explain most of the phenomena of your this particular semiconductor material. So so if you look at this particular junction, semiconductor A may have not only may have, like semiconductor A will have different band gap than the semiconductor B. But note here, in this junction where we are having PN junction, or only difference in the doping, the same semiconductor we are using. That means here the band gap of the semiconductor is same to the band gap of the semiconductor here. So there is no change in the band gap, but here we do have a change in terms of band gap. So this is called semiconductor-semiconductor junction. Again, the actual figure that I have shown just few slides back, that transistor. So that is AlGaN-GaN-HEMT. So where we are having this kind of junction, semiconductor-semiconductor junction. So this particular semiconductor A is aluminum gallium nitride, one type of compound semiconductor, and then here we are having gallium nitride, another compound semiconductor. So it has different like advantages over the, of course, that is why we are utilizing this over the silicon or other conventional semiconductor. Now apart from this three junction, we also have this kind of junction, like where we are utilizing all three type of material in terms of conductivity. So because you know that metal has a very high conductivity with overlapping band, this your conduction band and valence band. So it has it is actually here the like electrons are like sea of electrons. But here then we have having oxide or insulator, so which is having band gap, very high band gap. That means where the difference between your conduction band and valence band is very high. So essentially there are no carriers which can actually carry the current. And then we are having semiconductor, and where you can modulate the conductivity. So where we are having the this band gap of around some, let's say 1 to 4 electron volt, where you can excite one electron from the valence band to conduction band, so that you can have the current flowing through your material. So this is another junction. Again, this junction I think needless to say, where you have seen it is in MOSFET. So in MOSFET, this metal is actually the gate, then you are having oxide, then you are having channel or the semiconductor. So in MOSFET, we already saw this type of junction. So typically these 4 junction we need to play with to understand all the fundamental devices in this particular course. Now this is some history of semiconductor devices, because if I remember correctly, there are almost 18 major electronic devices. So so you know the devices like diode, BJT, as well as MOSFET. Now, apart from that, there are few more important devices which actually revolutionized this electronic industry. So, see here, you can see what are the device. So, it all the way it started the journey in the year 1974. No, sorry, 1874 by the scientist Brown. So, he actually first made this contact between metal and the semiconductor and got this first semiconducting device. Obviously that time there's no like as such no electronic application and so on. So but he realized this device behavior or this unidirectional behavior or non-rectifying behavior, both non-rectifying as well as rectifying behavior. Now following that, then there was a light emitting diode. This is also a diode, and this is a optoelectronics this device. Then following that, you know that in 1947 we have this bipolar BJT invented by this Bardeen, Brattain and Shockley. So following that, actually we are having this complete revolution in this electronics for the last 7 decades. So then you know this PN junction thyristor. Thyristor is a power device. Then solar cell, heterojunction bipolar device. Heterojunction bipolar device is very important for your upcoming this generation mobile, because this 5G, 6G, where we need very high speed operation. So this HBT, this is called heterojunction bipolar transistor or HBT, it can give us that high frequency. Following that, we know that these are all again typically, I think most of the scientists or the inventor, they got Nobel Prize. Yeah, I think Mott Fade also. Yeah, Mott Fade, I don't think he got Nobel Prize, Mirmura, but most of the inventor, they got Nobel Prize for this invention. So following this, I think you know this is one of the famous figure or this image in electronics. So these are the inventor of your BJT 1947. So then this was the first BJT point contact transistor, and again all this invention mostly happened in Bell Laboratories. So this is the first IC, or no, IC is the next one. So this is the first metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. And this is another historical fact. This is see, device is one thing. So this is conceptual ideas people have proposed and realized, of course. Now to realize some the device, you need to fabricate that. There are some process involved. So developing this process is also another important thing. Otherwise, see, just today I can just propose some device, some structure that may not be fabricated with the available process technology. So this is called technology. Technology means how we will fabricate this particular device. So we know that transistor or diode having PN junction. Now how to build that PN junction, that we have shown today in the earlier slide. So that is called process. So these are the some significant process technology. Again, so the contribution from these inventor or this process technology inventors is, I think, we cannot ignore. So these are the typical process technology developed for the last almost 100 years. So this is the first IC, first monolithic integrated circuit. So monolithic, this term, I think it is new to you, all of you. So monolithic means this is coming from the Latin, I guess. So litho means this rock, and mono means on a same rock. That means this whole device is made on a single rock or single the silicon. That is why this term monolithic. So again, we'll see that all the electronic devices or the circuit may not be monolithic. So this is something different discussion. Okay. So this is the first microprocessor, I think you know. And now this is the variation of minimum feature size. So you can see here. So this is again, I would say this is the one type of like Moore's law, like one trend of Moore's law. So here you can see like how from yeah, so 1965 this Moore proposed that thing, I guess. No, okay. So this how the minimum feature size in electronic device is gradually decreasing with the years. Now this is again a bit old data, so I took this from this book SMG. So now we are around 3 nanometer or even some 1 nanometer. This device people have already proposed. So you can see how with the years the size or the minimum feature size. See, remember, this is the minimum feature size. This is not the distance between source and the gate in your IC or in your electronic device. So how this minimum feature size is gradually decreasing. See, almost it has a linear fit. So with the years. So that is why. So still this trend is following the Moore's law or Moore's prediction. So this is once again the different way we are representing the previous that previous graph. So here actually we are having transistor count. So how what are the how many transistors we are utilizing, and this is the with the year, because as I mentioned, this Moore's law says like there will be a gradual or this increase in number of ICs or number of transistors per unit area will be double for every 18 months or 2 years. So now you can see here the important thing. See, I think you know those who are using this Apple phone. So Apple A12 Bionic chip. So Apple A12 Bionic chip is having transistors of I think 100 billion. Is it so? Yeah. So almost 100 this 100 crore transistors you are utilizing if you are using Apple this A12 Bionic chip. You can also see different other microprocessors. So there are huge number of transistors we are now utilizing, and we are still following Moore's law. Now, now after saying all this trend, I should also mention here that now people are thinking that whether, because see now we are already close to 1 nanometer, and 1 nanometer, how small is the 1 nanometer? In order to understand that, you should understand what is the distance between two atoms. So because see the distance between two atoms in particular silicon material, let's say the distance is 0.5 nanometer, 0.543 nanometer specifically. So the two silicon atom has distance 0.543 nanometer. Now see, we are already having the minimum feature size in your this electronic this world of 1 nanometer or 3 nanometer. So how many atoms will be there? You can like eventually we can count those atoms. So obviously see below this 0.5 nanometer, how can you go? Like it is below the distance between two atoms. So at least you need two atoms to define particular length. So is it really possible to go further and extend this Moore's law in the coming years? Because see, years will just get advanced. So there we, of course, we do not have any control. But whether this Moore's law will still continue in the coming years or not, that is another challenge. And of course, these people are working like this, all this electronics world, they are working how to extend this more. And of course, there are few discussions how we can still follow the thing, but without sinking the size of the transistor. So there are different proposals. That is called more than Moore's law. So that is different. So so you can see here, like in this is the note. This is technology note. Again, once again, we started today's this class with the technology note. So see, we are already at the 3 nanometer. Now 1 nanometer people have demonstrated in the lab, but it is not commercialized yet. But hopefully in the coming 2 to 3 years, it will get commercialized. So 3 nanometer, that means how many silicon atoms will be there in the 3 nanometer? If 0.5 nanometer is a two atom distance, so only 6, I think. So roughly 6 to 7 silicon atoms will be there. So now you can guess, like your device, all this electronic, all the transistor, where currently we are operating. So this is, I would say, very like challenging and fascinating journey we are having in this electronics world. So now what is the time? Okay, it is almost 12. So okay, so I'll just conclude. These are the typical devices, as I mentioned in this particular course. We'll try to understand all the voltage, current voltage characteristics, and how these characteristics we are getting. So that we'll try to understand throughout this course. And this is another important, and perhaps I think this is the last slide today. So as I mentioned earlier, so we are still having this microelectronics revolution, which is started with the invention of transistor or BJT in the year 1947 typically, and which, if you look at any electronics, microelectronic application, you will see these two building blocks. One is the CMOS inverter, and another one is the DRAM, dynamic random access memory. So the typical OR microelectronics is made of these two fundamental blocks. Now in case of power electronics, the fundamental blocks are power electronic switches as well as these energy storage devices or these passive devices, which is essentially inductor and capacitor. So these are the fundamental building block of this power electronics, circuit, as well as this is a microelectronic circuit. So yeah, so that's it for today, and let me know if you have any query. So are you all there? I think, yeah. How many students are there still? If you are having any doubts, please let me know. I'll wait for another 5 minutes. Else, thank you. And next time we'll meet on Thursday. Any doubts, any query, just...
Sir, how can we access the recording of the lectures?
Okay, I'll share. I'll share, Kanishk. Yeah, I'll share the recordings. Are you getting the recordings? I don't know, like with the links in your Google Calendar.
No, sir. Only you get the link.
Okay. So then I'll just download and upload in the Moodle once again. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So see you on Thursday. I think from 2 to 3. Thank you.
Sir.